The key slipped through my trembling fingers twice before I finally managed to fit it into the lock. I'd been rushing all morning. Important meeting, spilled coffee, forgotten phone. Now I was going to be doubly late. I pushed the door open, my mind already racing toward the bedroom nightstand where my phone always charged. But I froze in the entryway. Music was coming from our bedroom. Slow, sultry jazz that Noah only ever played when My heels suddenly sounded too loud on the hardwood as I moved forward, drawn by something beyond reason. A woman's laugh reached me, light and breathy, followed by Noah's deeper, familiar rumble. A sound I had known intimately for 12 years of marriage. I should have turned around. I should have left, pretending I'd never come home. But something propelled me forward, and soon I was in the doorway of our bedroom, the room where I had slept beside him for over a decade, where we had made love, argued, reconciled, and whispered our deepest secrets. Noah's back was to me. His dress shirt hung loose, unbuttoned. His hands tangled in long auburn hair, not my short black bob. The woman's eyes met mine over his shoulder. They widened in shock. But then, and this is what would haunt me, her lips curved into a smile. Not embarrassment, not shame, triumph. That's when Noah turned and saw me. His face drained of color. "Eliza," he whispered. "You're supposed to be at work," he said. "I forgot my phone," I replied, voice unnervingly calm, pointing to the nightstand where it sat, screen lighting up with notifications. "I can see you're busy. Don't mind me." I walked to the nightstand, took my phone, and left, closing the bedroom door behind me with a soft click that felt somehow more final than a slam. In the hallway, I pressed against the wall, legs suddenly unable to hold me. I unlocked my phone with shaking fingers and opened my calendar. Next to today's date, April 17th, I created a new entry. The day Noah Taylor died to me. Then I straightened my blazer, wiped a single tear from my cheek, and stepped out of what had been my home just 15 minutes earlier. Noah didn't know it yet, but I was about to become his worst nightmare. 6 years ago, when Noah and I were struggling financially, his grandmother Vivian passed and left him everything: the historic Tudor house in Oakwood Heights, her investment portfolio, and controlling interest in Taylor Properties, the commercial real estate company his grandfather had built from nothing. Noah, who had been a mid-level financial analyst, suddenly became CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. "We're set for life. Liz?" he had said, twirling me around our tiny apartment on the day of the will reading. "Everything I've ever wanted, everything we've ever wanted. It's all possible now." For a while, it felt like a dream. We moved into the Tudor, blending its historic charm with modern comforts. Noah took to running the company with surprising skill. I continued my work as a corporate attorney, making partner 2 years later at Bennett, Okafor, and Lynn. From the outside, our life looked perfect, the power couple of Oakwood Heights. Successful, attractive, childless by choice, but doting aunt and uncle to my sister Mia's twins. We hosted dinner parties for Noah's business associates and my law firm colleagues, donated to the right charities, attended the right events, maintained the right image. But somewhere along the way, something cracked between us. Intimacy faded so slowly I barely noticed until it vanished. Noah worked later and later. I buried myself in my cases. We stopped having those long conversations that had once been the backbone of our relationship. "It's just a phase," I told myself. "All marriages go through this." I should have seen the signs, the mysterious weekend conferences, the new cologne, the sudden obsession with fitness, the password on his phone that hadn't been there before. But I trusted Noah. Or perhaps I was simply too busy to notice. Or maybe I simply chose not to see what was staring me in the face. The woman in our bed was Vanessa Reed, Noah's new executive assistant, 28 to my 39. I'd met her once at a company event 3 months earlier. Polite, professional, complimentary about my dress, all while sleeping with my husband. After I left the house that morning, I drove to the office on autopilot. I canceled my meetings and sat at my desk staring at my screen without really seeing it. My phone buzzed relentlessly with texts and calls from Noah. I ignored everyone. Marcus knocked and came in, concern written all over his face. "Eliza, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," I said automatically, then corrected myself. "Actually, no, I'm not fine. Can you clear my schedule for the next few days?" "Family emergency?" Marcus asked. No questions asked, one of the reasons I trusted him. "Also," I added, "get me the name of the best divorce attorney in the city. Someone who isn't afraid to draw blood." His eyebrows rose, but he only said, "I'll have a list for you within the hour." Once he left, I pulled up my firm's database. Divorce wasn't my specialty, but I knew enough to understand what needed doing. Noah's company had expanded under his stewardship, but the seed capital and the original holdings had come from his inheritance. Inherited assets are usually separate property in a divorce, not divisible, but there are exceptions, and I intended to find them. I spent the day researching, taking notes, and assembling a plan. By evening, I'd checked into the Four Seasons downtown under my maiden name and booked consultations with the 3 most ruthless divorce lawyers in the state. Noah had called 17 times. I finally texted, "Don't come looking for me. I'll contact you when I'm ready to talk. Until then, enjoy your time with Vanessa." He answered instantly, "Please, Eliza, it's not what you think." "We need to talk." I turned the phone off, ordered room service, and opened my laptop. I wasn't merely going to divorce Noah. I planned to ruin him, not by violence or illegal means, but by using what I had: my mind, my network, and above all, the law. I would take his company, his reputation, his future, everything, while remaining scrupulously legal. The next morning, I met Diana Blackwell, silver-haired and infamous for leaving opponents both financially and emotionally ruined. After I laid out the facts, she asked, "So, you want the nuclear option?" "I want what I'm entitled to," I answered. She smiled with a predator's satisfaction. "Mrs. Taylor, Miss Chen, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship," she said. I stayed at the hotel for a week, leaving only for meetings with Diana and to speak with my sister Mia, the only person I'd told. "You can stay with us," Mia offered, her twin boys jostling in the background of the video call. "Thanks, but I need the anonymity of the hotel right now," I said. "And time to think. Have you talked to him?" she asked. "No, I don't plan to until everything's in place." Mia's face tightened. "Liz, I know you're hurt and you have every right to be, but this calculated plan. It doesn't sound like you." "The woman who trusted him implicitly is gone," I replied, my voice flat. "Noah killed her." Mia sighed. "Just don't lose yourself in revenge." "That's all I'm saying." Her words stayed with me. Was I losing myself or finally waking up to my own power? On day 9 of my self-imposed exile, a text came from an unknown number. "This is Vanessa Reed. We need to talk." "It's about Noah, and it's important. Meet me at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at 10 a.m. My first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity won. What could she possibly want to tell me? I confirmed the meeting with a single word: fine. The next morning, I dressed with intention, a deep burgundy power suit, my finest watch, understated makeup that highlighted rather than hid the shadows beneath my eyes. Let her see the damage she'd caused. Let her see I was hurt, but not defeated. I arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early and picked a table that faced the entrance. At exactly 10 a.m., Vanessa came in, looking smaller than she had in our bedroom. A simple blouse and jeans, her auburn hair pulled back into a ponytail. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as she slid into the chair opposite me. "You have 5 minutes," I told her, checking my watch. "Use them wisely," she took a shallow breath. "I'm pregnant. It's Noah's." For a moment, the world tilted. Noah and I had agreed years ago not to have children, a decision I believed we'd both made. Now this woman carried what I had deliberately refused. "Congratulations," I said, my voice flat as ice. "Is that all?" "No," Vanessa said, twisting a paper napkin between her fingers. "Noah doesn't know yet. And he's not who you think he is, Eliza." "Clearly," I replied. "I thought he was faithful." It's worse than infidelity, she insisted. Taylor Properties books are wrong. Noah's been moving funds, cooking the books. I've seen the transfers. I watched her closely, searching for signs of deceit. Why tell me? I asked. Because I'm scared, she admitted. At first, I thought he was just charming and unhappy in his marriage. But the other night, he was drunk and furious about a deal falling through. He slammed his hand against the wall right by my head and warned me, if I ever betrayed him, he'd make sure no one believed me. Part of me wanted to write her off as manipulative, but my legal instincts told me she believed what she was saying, or at least believed it enough to risk telling me. What do you want? I asked. I want out, she said simply. I want to disappear and raise the baby where he can't find us. I need money for that, and evidence of his financial misconduct would strengthen my negotiating position. I leaned back, weighing her words. If true, this changed everything, not just my divorce strategy, but Noah's entire future. Fraud at his level could lead to federal charges and prison. I'll need proof, I said at last. Documents, records, anything that corroborates this. Vanessa brightened. I've been making copies for weeks. I can give them to you. Why now? Why not go to the authorities? Because he'd know it was me, she replied, placing a protective hand over her flat stomach. I'm scared of what he might do. It's not just about me anymore. A strange prick of something, not sympathy exactly, but a grim solidarity, ran through me. Whatever role she'd played in wrecking my marriage, she now wanted to escape a man who might be far more dangerous than I'd imagined. I'll need time to verify whatever you give me, I warned. Don't expect immediate action. She fished a flash drive from her purse and slid it across the table. It's all on here. Financial records, emails, recorded conversations, enough to show something's very wrong. I took the drive, my thoughts already cataloging possibilities. This doesn't make us friends, Vanessa. I know, she said, rising, but maybe it makes us allies. I stayed at the cafe another hour, weighing the flash drive in my hand. If Noah was committing fraud, it could explain his erratic moods, the secrecy, the unrelenting stress. And it would give me the leverage I needed. That night in my hotel room, I plugged the drive into my laptop. As a corporate attorney, I knew financial statements well enough to tell when something was wrong. And these numbers were wrong, badly. Millions were being funneled through shell companies, masked as legitimate business expenses, then routed back to accounts that looked like they were under Noah's personal control. One document grabbed my attention, a draft agreement between Taylor Properties and Maxwell Development, a firm I'd never seen before. The terms heavily favored Maxwell, essentially handing them prime properties at below-market rates. I searched Maxwell Development online and found almost nothing, just a bare-bones site and an incorporation date 2 years prior. A textbook front company. I called Diana Blackwell despite the late hour. I may have evidence that Noah's been embezzling, I said without preamble. How does that change our strategy? She asked after a pause. It changes everything, she replied. If he's using marital assets for illegal activity, we can argue dissipated assets. And the prospect of criminal charges gives us enormous leverage. But if I use this information, I'd essentially be turning him in, I said. The thought I'd been avoiding now voiced aloud. Yes, Diana confirmed. Are you prepared for that? This was no longer solely about divorce. This could mean prison for the man I'd loved for 12 years, the man who'd shared my bed, my ambitions, my life, and then betrayed me in the most intimate way. I told Diana I needed time. Don't take too long, she warned. If he suspects you have this, he might cover his tracks. Or worse. After we hung up, I lay staring at the hotel ceiling, my thoughts in turmoil. Revenge was one thing. Criminal prosecution was another. Was I ready to cross that line? The next morning, my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. Is this Eliza Taylor? A male voice asked when I answered. Yes, who is this? Detective James Wilson, Oakwood Heights Police Department. I'm calling about Vanessa Reed. My heart lurched. What about her? She was found in her apartment this morning. There was an incident. He paused. She's in the hospital. Before losing consciousness, She gave us your name and said you have information about Noah Taylor that's vital to her safety. Is she going to be okay? I asked, suddenly parched. The doctors are doing everything they can, he said, which was no reassurance. Mrs. Taylor, I need to speak with you as soon as possible. I'll be there right away, I said. Detective, bring me to the station. I have a flash drive you'll want to see. The police station buzzed with activity when I arrived. The flash drive clutched like a talisman. Detective Wilson, weathered in his 50s, kind-eyed but grave, led me to a small interview room. Ms. Reed was found by her neighbor, he explained once we were seated. She'd been severely beaten. The neighbor called 911 after hearing screaming. You think Noah did it? I asked. We're investigating all possibilities, he replied carefully. But a man matching your husband's description was seen leaving the building around the time of the assault. I set the flash drive on the table. This contains evidence that my husband has been embezzling from Taylor Properties and possibly laundering money through shell companies. Vanessa gave it to me yesterday. She said she was afraid of Noah, that he'd threatened her. Detective Wilson picked up the drive and asked, You're willing to go on record with this? Any remaining hesitation drained away. Yes, I'll tell you everything I know. For the next 2 hours, I answered questions, signed statements, and agreed to testify if necessary. I called Diana, who arrived at the station with a criminal attorney in tow. After she'd been briefed, she said, This changes our approach. We're not just filing for divorce now. We're seeking an emergency protective order and freezing all assets immediately. By evening, everything moved at a dizzying pace. Noah had been brought in for questioning. The department's financial crimes unit had reviewed the flash drive and judged the material sufficient to open a full investigation. Vanessa remained in critical condition, though miraculously the pregnancy was still viable despite the injuries. An officer escorted me back to the Four Seasons and advised me not to return to the Tudor house. Diana had already filed emergency motions to freeze Noah's assets and secure my access to joint accounts. And Martin Rhee, the criminal attorney, was coordinating with the district attorney's office about potential charges. I should have felt triumphant. Noah was facing not only the end of our marriage, but possible criminal charges and the collapse of the carefully curated life he'd built. It was more ruin than I could have engineered on my own. Instead, I felt hollow. A woman was fighting for her life because I hadn't acted faster on what she'd told me. The man I'd built my life around had proven himself not merely unfaithful, but violent and dangerous. The next morning, I woke to news that Noah had been released on bail with orders to stay away from both me and Vanessa. I called Detective Wilson immediately. How could you let him out? I demanded. The evidence is strong but circumstantial, he said. The DA is building a case on both the assault and the financial crimes, but it takes time. He surrendered his passport and is wearing an ankle monitor. That won't stop him if he's desperate, I said. We have officers watching him, he assured me. Ms. Reed is under police protection at the hospital. She regained consciousness this morning. Would you like to see her? I surprised myself by answering yes. I'll arrange it. 2 hours later, I stood in a hospital corridor and steeled myself before entering Vanessa's room. I wasn't sure whether I needed to apologize, to understand, or simply to witness that she was still alive. The woman in the bed looked nothing like the confident assistant at the company event or the frightened, expectant mother from the cafe. Her face was swollen. One eye was swollen shut. Her lips were split. Monitors beeped steadily while an IV dripped into her arm. Eliza, she rasped when she saw me. Don't try to talk, I said awkwardly, taking a seat by the bed. I just wanted to know you were okay. Not really, she tried to smile, wincing. But the baby, her voice trailed, strained by pain. I'm sorry, I said, the apology inadequate. I should have gone to the police as soon as you gave me the drive. She shook her head faintly. Not your fault. I never thought he'd find out so fast. How did he know? I asked. My work computer, she answered in short, painful bursts. He must have seen me copying files. He came to my apartment, so angry. I reached out and took her hand. It felt strange to comfort the woman who'd been sleeping with my husband. But in that instant, our common victimhood eclipsed the betrayal. "He won't hurt you again," I promised. "Or either of you," she whispered, and my eyes fell to the swollen curve at her center as a single tear ran down her bruised cheek. I was so stupid. I thought he loved me. "We both believed what we wanted to believe about him," I said. "Now we know, and he's going to pay." As I left the hospital, my phone rang. Diana, Noah's attorney, was blunt. They wanted to talk settlement, the divorce, the criminal charges, the company, a package deal. "What's in it?" I asked. "Full confession to the financial crimes, but a reduced sentence," she said. "Admission of the assault on Vanessa with mandatory anger management and probation. The company liquidated with proceeds distributed to shareholders, including you, and a divorce settlement granting you the house and 60% of remaining assets." I considered the offer. It exceeded my initial expectations for the divorce, but it felt inadequate given the full scope of his crimes, especially what he had done to Vanessa. "What does the DA say?" I asked. "They're weighing it," Diana replied. "The financial evidence is solid, but the assault case is complicated. Vanessa's relationship with Noah, her pregnancy, her access to company files. Any defense attorney could try to spin it." "And Vanessa? Does she get anything in this deal?" I asked. "Yes, a separate civil settlement," Diana confirmed. "Substantial, from what I understand." I thought of Vanessa in that hospital bed, the baby she carried, the bruises on her face, and whatever invisible scars she bore. "I want to speak to Noah," I said abruptly. "Face to face." "Eliza, that's not advisable." "Not alone," I clarified. "With you and his attorney present. Before I agree to anything, I need to hear him say it," Diana sighed. "I'll arrange it. But only in my office with security present." "That's fine," I said. "Tell him I'll be there tomorrow at noon." That night I barely slept, rehearsing what I would say and anticipating his responses. Would he be the charming, persuasive man I'd married? The ruthless businessman who committed fraud? The violent abuser who attacked Vanessa? Or some new version, crafted solely to manipulate me into accepting his offer? The next day I dressed deliberately. A sharp black suit that highlighted my recent weight loss, minimal jewelry, my wedding and engagement rings conspicuously absent. Diana met me in the lobby. "Remember," she cautioned in the elevator, "this is not about emotional catharsis. It's a negotiation. Stay calm. Stay focused." "I know," I assured her. "I won't fall apart." Noah was already in the conference room with his attorney, Bernard Klenn, a man I knew by reputation as skilled but somewhat sleazy. Noah rose as I entered, his face a mask of contrition. He looked haggard, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, his normally pristine clothing slightly rumpled. "Eliza," he said, voice catching. I ignored him and took my seat across from him, Diana beside me, her expression neutral and professional. "Mr. Taylor," Diana began, "you requested this meeting to discuss settlement terms. We're here to listen, but I want to be clear that any agreement must include full admission of wrongdoing, both financial and personal." Bernard cleared his throat. "My client is prepared to make certain admissions in exchange for the terms outlined yesterday. Before we proceed formally, he's asked for a few moments to speak directly to Mrs. Taylor." Diana looked at me. I nodded. 5 minutes, she said. We stay in the room. The attorneys move to opposite corners, giving us a semblance of privacy while remaining within earshot. Noah leaned forward, eyes, those same eyes I once found so captivating, pleading. "Liz," he began, using my old nickname. "I know nothing I say can undo what I've done, but I need you to understand. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Which part?" I asked. "The affair? The embezzlement? The assault on your pregnant girlfriend?" I flinched at the words. "I got in over my head," he said quietly. "The company struggled after the pandemic. I made poor investments trying to recover. Then I met these guys from Maxwell Development. They offered a partnership that could save everything. But their terms? I had to get creative with the numbers." "You mean you committed fraud?" I translated. He didn't deny it. "And then Vanessa started as my assistant. She was so admiring, so different from... He stopped abruptly. That's no excuse. I know that. What I did to you was unforgivable. And what you did to her? I pressed. Was that unforgivable too? Pain flickered across his face. I lost control when I realized she'd taken those files to you. I've never been that angry before. It was like watching someone else use my hands. He looked down at his hands, as if they belonged to a stranger. I still couldn't believe he had done that. To her, to his own child. The mention of the baby, his child with another woman, sent a fresh stab of pain through me, but I kept my expression neutral. You're right about one thing, Noah, I said. This is unforgivable, all of it. But what hurts most isn't even the cheating or the lies. It's that I never really knew you. 12 years, and you were a stranger all along. That's not true, he protested. The man you knew, the man who loved you, he was real. I just lost him somewhere along the way. Well, I said, rising from my chair, I hope the settlement money buys you a good therapist to help you find him again. We're done here. Diana, please work out the details with Mr. Clean. I trust your judgment completely. Eliza, wait, Noah said, reaching for me across the table. I stepped back. The only thing I want from you now, I told him, is your signature on the divorce papers. That, and your word that you'll never contact Vanessa or her child again unless it's through a court-approved process. I won't, he promised, desperation in his voice. I'll sign whatever you want. Just tell me, is there any part of you that could ever forgive me? Not now, but someday, I said, studying his face. The face I'd woken up to for over a decade, the face I'd once believed I'd grow old with. I searched for a flicker of the man I'd married, a trace of the love we'd shared. But there was none. Goodbye, Noah, I said, and walked out without looking back. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment overlooking the city park. Autumn leaves painted the landscape in fiery oranges and reds. Behind me, laughter drifted through the open doors as Mia supervised her twins and Vanessa's newborn daughter, Lily. The divorce had been finalized 3 months prior. Noah had pleaded guilty to lesser charges of financial mismanagement and aggravated assault, receiving a 5-year sentence with the possibility of parole after 3. Taylor Properties had been dissolved, its assets distributed to shareholders and creditors. I'd sold the Tudor house, unable to imagine living there again with all its tainted memories. Vanessa and I had formed an unlikely friendship, born of shared trauma and mutual determination to rebuild our lives. When she was discharged from the hospital, I'd offered her the guest room in my temporary apartment. What was meant to be a week had stretched into months, and now we were house hunting together, a duplex that would allow us separate living spaces while sharing childcare and support. Tea, Vanessa said, appearing beside me with 2 steaming mugs in hand. Her physical wounds had healed, though a faint scar lingered above her right eyebrow. The emotional ones would take longer for both of us. Thanks, I said, taking the mug and breathing in the familiar scent of chamomile. Lily finally fell asleep, Vanessa said, leaning against the railing. Your sister is a miracle worker. She's had practice, I smiled. The twins were colicky for months. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the park below. Joggers circled the paths. Children played on swings. Normal life, quietly continuing even after devastation. His appeal was denied, Vanessa said after a while. My lawyer called this morning. I nodded. Diana had told me. That's good news. Do you ever... She hesitated. Do you ever think about visiting him? No, I said firmly. That chapter is closed. I've made my peace. The rage that consumed me in those early days has gradually faded, replaced by a quiet determination to move forward. I'd thrown myself into work, made senior partner at the firm, reconnected with old friends, made new ones, even gone on a few dates, though nothing serious yet. Sometimes I think Lily should know her father someday, Vanessa said, her hand moving unconsciously to her necklace, a simple silver pendant with her daughter's birthstone. Not now, but when she's older, when she starts asking questions. That's your decision, I said carefully, but whatever you choose, I'll support you. I know, she smiled. That's why I can even consider it. Because I'm not facing it alone. My phone chimed with a message. Diana confirming that the last of Noah's overseas accounts had been located and the funds transferred as part of the settlement. The final loose end, tied up, everything okay? Vanessa asked. Yes, I said, putting the phone away. Just work stuff. Inside, Mia called that dinner was ready. We gathered around the table, my sister and her husband, their twins, Vanessa and baby Lily and me. An unconventional family, formed from the wreckage of betrayal. As I looked around at these people who had helped me rebuild my life, I realized something profound. In trying to destroy Noah, I had actually freed myself. The woman I'd become in the aftermath was stronger, wiser, more compassionate than before. I'd survived the unthinkable and emerged not just intact, but more fully myself. Later that night, after everyone had gone, I sat alone in my living room with a glass of wine. On the coffee table lay a letter I'd received that morning, an offer from a prestigious law firm in Chicago specializing in representing victims of financial crimes and domestic abuse. They wanted me to head their new client advocacy division, using my personal experience and legal expertise to help others navigate similar journeys. I picked up the letter and reread the final paragraph. Your unique perspective as both an attorney and someone who has lived through these experiences would be invaluable to our clients.
We believe you could transform not just individual lives, but potentially the way these cases are handled throughout the legal system. Asterisk. A year ago, I couldn't have imagined finding purpose in my pain. Now, it seemed like the most natural evolution possible. I took out my phone and created a new calendar entry. Next to the date, October 17th, I wrote, asterisk, the day Eliza Chin began again. Asterisk, then I sent a quick email accepting the Chicago position, finished my wine, and went to bed, ready for whatever the next chapter might bring. And that wraps up today's story. Now, we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing. Rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing. Rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.